Hi everybody, this is Lou Adler. I want to introduce you to a quite unique personality type indicator test. I call it the best personality type indicator. You'll see why it's the best because it's only 2 questions, but if you've read anything I've done before, you recognize I do not like type indicators for pre-screening purposes, primarily because they're flawed. They only indicate preferences, not competencies. And I've written about these in all my books and all my training programs, Hire With Your Head, Talent Rules, my most recent book, The Essential Guide for Hiring and Getting Hired. They all encompass the idea of let's focus on performance qualified people as opposed to skills qualified. It also focuses on what people do with their skills, do with their competencies, do with their behaviors. So while I believe that personality type tests like DISC and calipers and predictive index are useful, they're not the least bit predictive. And you'll see why in a moment. So let me prove that contention, but it still doesn't mean they're invaluable. So let me just ask you 2 very simple questions and you'll be able to figure out your exact personality style. The fact that you can do it in 2 questions pretty much tells you why it's not very in-depth. But nonetheless, on the horizontal axis, just put yourself on the right side if you're quick at making decisions, you like limited data, you like to make decisions intuitively, and on the left, if you're a little bit more cautious, you like lots of information before you make a decision. So just make that left or right decision. Now let's do a top-bottom decision. If you tend to be very sensitive to the needs of people, you're very concerned with the people you work with, you're on the bottom. If you're more results-focused or task-focused and less sensitive to the needs of people, you're on the top. So for now, rather than figuring out degrees, just put yourself at the top if you're results focused and at the bottom if you're team focused. Those 2 questions alone determine your personality style. You're a B, a boss, is the best personality type indicator. If you're fast and results focused, you tend to be dominant, driven, confident. Sometimes you become a little bit insensitive. If you're fast and people focused, you tend to be an engager. These are the classic salespeople, persuasive, convincing, the closer. Sometimes you get a little pushy. If you're team focused and slow decision making, more analytical, a little more cautious, you're a supporter. You're collaborative, you're understanding, you're the counselor type, the diplomatic type. On the other hand, under pressure, you can become pretty bureaucratic. And if you're results focused and a little bit more cautious and slower decision making, you tend to be analytical, more insightful, more deliberative. Under pressure, you can be a little more controlling. So very quickly, 2 questions, I've learned a lot about you. But quite frankly, I've learned nothing about you. These are just preferences, not competencies. I don't know if you're good or bad at any of those. You just prefer to do that. You could actually be better in others, but you just prefer to be one style over another. That's why I don't like to use them for pre-screening. On the other hand, they are confirming indicators. If I've discovered that a person is performance qualified, I might find out how they use their personality to achieve those results. And one would assume they would be consistent. That's why they're confirming indicators. From a pre-screening standpoint, everybody knows what the right answers are on DISC predictive index. You almost have to be an idiot not to get that test right. That might be a predictive indicator, but we're not going there in at least this little best session. The reality of it is a person can be good in all of those types depending on the circumstance, even if they have a preference for 1 or 2. As people grow and develop, though, they tend to take on the attributes of the best of each style and move towards the center, which I call the coaching position. The least best is away from the center under pressure, and that can cause some severe problems, which I'll get to in a minute. From an interviewing perspective, there is a way to become more objective, which is taking on your least best style. For boss, you become a supporter. Technical, you become an engager, and vice versa. So quick takes. To become more objective, become the opposite of who you are. For if you're a boss, slow down, get facts, listen more. Don't make instant judgments and assume you're right. If you're an engager, don't make a judgment on first impressions. Determine if the person can get the results you want and the process the person used to get the results. If you're a supporter, don't just focus on cultural fit and team skills. Understand if this person has a track record of getting results and how they did it. And if you're a technical person, don't just focus on technical brilliance. understand how technical people collaborate with other people and how they get results through and with other people, particularly multifunctional people. A technical person can understand the needs of a non-technical user is a remarkable person. So that's how you can increase your objectivity during the interview, by taking on the traits of the opposite style. Now here's where the direction of growth is important. During our performance-based interview, we ask candidates to tell us how they handled difficult decisions, how they dealt with pressure, and we watch the growth and change over time. A very healthy person seems to adapt all the styles based on the circumstances and move towards the coaching position in the center. They see what's needed based on the circumstances. Sometimes people move to the outside under pressure. A boss can become brutal and in your face. You've seen engagers under pressure. A sales rep really gets in your face and becomes very brash. Supporters, while they might become bureaucratic, if they feel under pressure and threatened, they'll become wily. And a technical person will demean people and become very caustic about others who aren't smart as they are. But you really see this, and this is an important aspect, whether in terms of assessing candidate competency. So to get to this, figure out, have the person describe their accomplishments, use the performance-based interviewing methodology I advocate, find out how they made big decisions within each accomplishments and look at those accomplishments over time, figure out what teams they've been assigned to, how they've influenced and worked with different kinds of teams and different levels and different people, and observe the direction of growth over time. Are they always the boss, always the engager, always the supporter, always the technical? Or are they adopting? So this is where, from a behavioral standpoint, you can say it's the growth of behaviors and change of behaviors over time is very important. Looking at an individual behavior, anybody can come up with an example of any one of these things. It's the trend of growth and change over time that's important, though. But what I'm always looking for, particularly when I get into managers and directors, or even assessing a younger person to see if they got the potential to become a manager, director, or vice president, I'm looking for the ability to become a coach. So very insightful from that perspective. I'm very concerned if I see movement away from the center and not the ability to be flexible within these best styles. Now, I also can do this. I can also ask the same questions, accomplishments, and within an accomplishment, I could find out where they really results driven, where they really had to focus on a technical accomplishment, where they really had to work with a group of people, really had to be collaborate and understand and deal with conflict. So by asking similar questions, you can figure out the breadth of their best style and the competency within that best style. Obviously, it has to be adjusted for the level and scope and scale of the position, but you can get a sense of fit that way. So it's the best model is a pretty good way, at least mapping out the questions you're going to ask for an interview. So have a person describe their accomplishments, get examples of where they had to use the best styles within each accomplishment, find out how the boss handled results under pressure, how the engager convinced someone to do something, how the supporter overcame group conflict, and how the technical digging deep into an accomplishment. You do those things, you get a pretty good sense of this person's flexibility across the best styles and how they deal with different kinds of situations and circumstances. And the best people are flexible in that way. So the idea is be your best. There's a lot of things you can do with this whole approach. So while I do not like it for a pre-screening standpoint, it has great value for a leadership standpoint, employee development standpoint, interviewing standpoint. So first off, figure out your dominant style. Fast or slow, team or results, you'll pretty well quickly figure it out. But to grow, take on the traits of your opposite and diagonal style. Conflict is caused by intensifying your own style. So when you're in a conflict situation, sit back, relax, try to be like the person diagonally opposite you. When interviewing people, still cross over and take on the traits of the opposite style, but understand how your person has grown and developed using these same techniques. You do those things every time, you will be your best at interviewing, you will be your best at management, you will hire great people every time. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much.